want to talk a little bit about Texas's running back depth and talk about this from the moment that we learned about the CJ Baxter news when we did that segment. Also, want to remind you, subscribe to the channel. I know that 66% of the people who watch this show don't subscribe to it. And I'm just trying to get to my little 100,000 so I get my little play button over here. And if you're a Texas fan and you got some stuff to say, I'm still talking about you, right? And we still having this conversation, so the least you could do is throw the subscribe button in there. That said, let's talk about what Texas should expect and what we should expect from Texas, knowing that CJ Baxter is lost for the season with a knee injury that he suffered of all days on the first day of padded practice, which absolutely sucks. And I'm going to reiterate this. Yes, I root for Oklahoma. Yes, I can't stand Texas, but I am never, ever going to be happy about an injury occurring to one of the kiddos. I don't give a damn who he plays for. Plus, add to that, CJ Baxter's a lot of fun to watch. Like, I watched that dude at Edgewater, and I'm telling you, when he was RB1 as a true freshman last year, I was excited to watch him. Just ain't necessarily going to do anything but bite my nails when he running against Oklahoma. But they got a bunch of tailbacks over there in Texas that can give me the what for and the how now, give me the willies, make me do the boogaloo over here. Now, the way to look at this is, what does Steve Sarkisian's offense expect from a tailback, and what does the tailback provide for Steve Sarkisian's offense? I really enjoy Texas' offense. I'm not kidding. Like, I'll use it in EA Sports' college football because I love motions. I love jet sweeps. I love being able to find out what defense the defense is in, what coverage they're in, simply by the movement that is already built into the offensive play. Right? As a quarterback, I love to watch the safeties, see what they do, see how they rotate. If you're 6 yards off the ball, I know that you're probably going to be in a cover 6, especially if you're down here 4 yards off the ball. I love being able to know what that pre-snap look is like and what it's going to morph into after we clap our hands and we go. The Texas tailback, though, has become much more of an evolved player with Steve Sarkisian. The way to look at this is quite literally just looking at how many times they throw the Texas running back the ball. So Tom Herman's last year at Texas, running spread, right, QB power, that sort of stuff, where you're asking the quarterback to basically play point guard. They threw the ball to the tailback just 34 times all year, right? Last year, Texas tailbacks caught 74 passes in Steve Sarkisian's offense. Remember, that's the one that won the Big 12 championship, and that is the one that made the college football playoff. The first year that Sark had this team, and they weren't very good, 5-7 in Austin, Texas ain't good at all. They threw the ball to tailbacks, caught it 45 times, right? That's already up from what Herman was doing with 34, but that number is also steadily increased because as much as I believe that the run game is very important to Steve Sarkisian, having a 1,000-yard tailback, you probably want to have a 1,500-yard all-purpose tailback, because you want to be able to get that guy the ball out in space. I remember when Josh Heupel was running Oklahoma's offense, and he had put in a lot of swing passes because he thought that was an extension of the run game. It's only an extension of the run game if it works, and it only worked when it did because guys like DeMarco Murray, Josh Heupel wasn't calling plays for DeMarco Murray, but you get my point here. Guys like DeMarco Murray would catch that ball on the swing pass and make it do what it do, baby, because that's getting your best player the ball out in space as quickly as you possibly can and hopefully get him in one-on-one matchups that he should win. I take the Gale Sayers rule of thumb with this, which is if you are an elite tailback, you should make one man miss 100% of the time. No one man should ever be able to stop you. If you see two men, you should make them miss 75% of the time. That means 3 out of 4, you ought to get by them both. And you should make 3 men miss 50% of the time. So you should be able to take on 3 players in space by yourself. And great tailbacks can do that, right? I don't know if we have a great tailback at Texas, but we're going to find out. They got really, really good ones. They got speed, and then they got a dude that I really think reminds me of DeMarco Murray, which is why I brought him up. So speed, you got Jaydon Blue, right? We all know that Jaydon Blue is a player. Seeing him get more touches is the glass half full part of the CJ Baxter injury. But it's also as simple as this is a man that can run sub 11 seconds in the 100-meter dash. And as a man that loves track and field and ran track and field at TU, running under 11 is still fast, guys. That's still flying. You ain't got to be 10.5 to be fast. If you are sub 11, you can absolutely move. And he's prepared for this sort of workload. for two reasons. One, he had this kind of workload in high school, and two, he hadn't had this kind of workload since high school. And the way that I get at that is he carried the ball 432 times as a sophomore and a junior in high school at Klein. Averaged 8.7 yards per carry with each one of those years. Jumped from over the course of both of those years, actually jumped from 7.86 to 9.49 as a junior, right? And then took the year off for non-injury related reasons for his senior year and arrives at Texas without having really carried the ball with any sort of frequency since his junior year of high school. So he is rested, and his body knows what it's like to be the guy who is down there first, second, third down. Now, he might not be back there third down, but you get my point here. He can make it go. He's also going to be the guy for which is going to scoot through that hole. I think of him as the man who's going to run by people. Yeah, he's shifty and he'll shake them, but if you give him a step, you're not going to catch him. And that is worth its weight in gold in the SEC, where it feels like everybody is fast and everybody can run with you. Having that guy as your lead tailback doesn't hurt anything. He's also 6 feet, 200 pounds. That's not a small tailback, right? Most tailbacks, we're thinking between 5'9", 6'2", being on the tall side of this. Sometimes that guy becomes a wide receiver or projects as a wide receiver, like Tre Wisner. Or Wisner, excuse me. Tre Wisner, also identically 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, but built different, which is kind of one of the reasons I really love to talk about these guys and how they look. When I think of Tre, I think of DeMarco Murray because it's a guy with a pass-catching background. It is a guy that they even flirted with, perhaps having him play a little bit of corner because they need the help, and he's got those sorts of ball skills. And if you got a player that has that sort of ball skill and he can carry the ball between the tackles, you have the opportunity to do some really cool stuff, right? Like Tashard Choice knows what he has in that backfield. And as much as I think people really do like Christian, and for good reason, I think Christian's going to be a third down back, but there's a little bit of Bijan in his game. That's according to Tashard, not according to me. So I'm not throwing around Bijan's name like that. That's your running backs coach just throwing around Bijan's name like that. But there's the reason that Bijan was a first-round pick is because he could do all these things. He could run between the tackles. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. He could be your offense. However, we're talking about Jaydon Blue averaging basically 9 yards per play every time he touched the ball in high school, and Bijan was averaging 17, okay? Bijan had something like 7 300-yard rushing games. For perspective there, Jaydon Blue's got 6 200-yard rushing games in high school, right? I'm looking at this, and I'm saying, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit, but you have depth there. So knowing that you have depth there, are you going to be as electric? I think so. I think this is why you're Texas and you recruit well. As much as I hate people saying, and I really do hate people saying, next man up, because it ain't next man up to the dude with the blown out knee, and it ain't next man up to his family, and it ain't next man up to his head coach and all the folks that went to school with him, because to get an offer and to be a guy at the University of Texas or any major college football program is to be the best player in your town, in your district, sometimes of your generation. A lot of people are on your back when you get to wear that school's colors on national television. However, that's the thing about Texas, right? They recruit like that. My favorite is I was freshman football coach at Memorial Senior High School, and I'm calling the offense. And we had a player at quarterback who was every bit of 6'2", 205 pounds as a true freshman in high school. And I wanted to play him at quarterback all the time. I wanted to run the entire offense through him. And I was asked to move him to wide receiver and let a player with a good enough arm run quarterback so we could put him out in routes. I ended up losing that because I'm not the head coach for the freshman team. And the freshman team ends up being just fine and does just fine. And that player ends up transferring to Central High School where he was going to play quarterback. And my God, did he ever play quarterback. And he did exactly what I would do, which is run Texas spread back when Vince Young was still running Texas or the quarterback there. We're going to run the entire offense through that dude, and we're going to let that guy go win for us. That man's name is DeMarco Cobb. And DeMarco Cobb ended up playing linebacker at the University of Texas. So mad about this because I see it. When I see it, I know it, okay? I know why I love football, and I know what I'm seeing when I'm watching football. I see it cleanly. I see the scheme. I see the picture. I know what we're doing. That's the kind of dude you can recruit to Texas to play linebacker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm always in awe of just how many players show up at some of these places and compete. Like, people want to talk about this player wants to transfer because you don't want no competition. Dog, it's all competition everywhere you go in big-time college football. Everybody's got dudes. Everybody can play. Because I'm telling you, the one time that I knew I had a gem and exactly what to do with him, otherwise smart people just get in your way, you know? And I don't think Steve Sarkisian is in that spot. I think a lot of people are pulling in the same direction for Texas. So when you see Tre and you see Jaydon Blue and they running split backs and we running 3 wide and we trying to give Quinn Ewers some pass protection, know that I'm just going to call that formation the pole assassin. And I'm going to call it the pole assassin for reasons, but also because that's the thing you're going to miss from CJ Baxter that you might need both of them to do. Okay? CJ Baxter, I think, was going to be RB1, not just because he was a great tailback with the ball in his hands, but because he was really good in pass pro. And that is why I think he beat out Jonathan Brooks last year to start. And it showed later on because Texas gave up 28 sacks of Quinn Ewers, which doesn't sound like a lot because I've been telling you a lot about how Colorado gave up 56, but it was the second worst in the Big 12 last year, only behind Baylor, who wasn't any good, right? And they gave up 34 sacks. And for a quarterback like Quinn, who is talented but frail, he has not played an entire season of college football without missing games due to injury. You need somebody back there that's going to take care of him. Maybe the solution is to have 2 tailbacks back there and send 3 guys out in routes because you got dudes over there too. You got Silas Bolden, you got Isaiah Bond, you got Jonte Cook. You've got guys that we think can play and can win against man coverage for sure, but against some zones, they know how to sit down, and Quinn is good enough to slot the ball there. So you're betting on his accuracy, but you got to keep him upright long enough to let those guys get open against zone coverage so that they can move in and out of those windows. And maybe now and again, Amari Niblack splits the seam and you home free. This is how I see it playing out for Texas. And it's one of the reasons when I'm talking about the 134 coming out next week, I still think this is top 5. I still think this is a top 5 program. And I think they have a chance to prove that when they go to Ann Arbor to take on the Michigan Wolverines.